Hello divas, dudes, and dolls, I'm Kara Couture, and welcome back to my jabby, stabby, and not too shabby little review show, Very Slay, where we go over each and every one of the main stage runway looks on RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 9. Now, I know the runway theme this week is Atomic Blonde, and I could have been blonde for it, but I don't look good in blonde hair. I never have, I never will, so we're just avoiding that altogether. Teehee! Here we are now, a couple weeks in on the hormones, and obviously it's gonna be a hot minute before any changes start to really kick in, but I just feel a lot better about myself, which is like a wonderful change for once. On top of having a really great boyfriend as well, and starting to have a work-life balance, it's just like life in general just kind of feels like it's coming up roses, and it's wonderful, and I'm just going to relish in it as much as I can anyway. Now, for anybody who is here who has never watched Very Slay before, when we get into these looks, if I think a look met the brief, got the job done, but didn't blow me away, we give it an okay. If I absolutely adored it, then we give it a slay. And if I think it's in need of some purple shampoo, or it looks like a box dye job, and it's bad, and I don't like it, we give it a nay. And that's all in efforts to find our weekly Slay of the Day, my favorite look out of the episode, which will go head to head against our current reigning Slay of the season, Got Mix, a Tail and Two Titties runway from episode 3, to determine who will hold on to that top spot for another week and move on one step closer to being the final Slay of the season. Now, before we get into these looks, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for even more coverage of All Stars 9 and whatever the heck I decide to do after, because I have no idea. Maybe Drag Race Philippines, maybe something completely different. Who knows? The jury is still out. Now, before we get into these looks, I do want to take a second to just talk about how incredible the roast opener looked this week. Bob the Drag Queen in this denim moment. This is so stunning. I love this hair. I love the button detailing. It's really the side panels and the overall silhouette that I absolutely adore, though, of this gown. And you know I love a denim moment. Maybe I felt a little subconsciously inspired. If we were going to rank this would obviously be a slay, but it's not eligible for Slay of the Day because she's not a contestant on the season. I just wanted to take a second to talk about this look for a bit because, woohoo, I loved it. Okie dokie, let's get into the actual contestants this week. First up, we have Chanel. This hairstyle and the makeup and the whole steampunk Mad Max vibe, I'm very here for it. The 4 leg warmers, interesting choice. I'm not the biggest fan of them as boot covers or whatever the situation is, but the whole thing feels very much like the season 4 first episode, like the post-apocalyptic couture kind of challenge, and just that whole kind of vibe. I actually really like this color palette on her. I think it looks really good. And again, as always, she's mugged down ever so fiercely. I love this fascinator and like the armor details. Those are my favorite parts of the entire look. The whole vibe of this is so 1980s, and I'm incredibly here for it. I'm going to be giving her a slay this week. Up next, we have Gorgeous, and this might actually be, I dare say, my favorite thing I've ever seen her in, especially in the hair department. This huge Tina Turner Thunderdome mohawk is so cool, and it is the perfect sense of scale for how tiny she is. Like, it's pulled up off the face, and it's huge from the side, but from the front, it's just enough to give her that elevation and that height that her body doesn't have. It's proportionate, and you know me, I'm a sucker for proportions. This is incredibly successful to me, and I like that it's in pink. I just think it's fun. I'm gonna give her a slay too. Also, I mean, the hand sparkler thingies, that was pretty cool. Can't deny that. Up next, we have Plastic Tiara, whose pipe game is incredibly strong this episode. What can I say? And in all honesty, I think the overall impression of this look is really cool. I love the hair. I love the scale of the pipes on the back and the shoes. And I think the visor is a really interesting design as well. What I'm not a big fan of is the makeup. And like, the makeup works, it makes sense with the look, but I hate white lashes. I don't think they look good on anybody. I don't care what Michelle says. I don't care how good they worked in this scenario for this look. I didn't like them. And I think the look was stronger with the visor on because of it. And when you get into the look as a whole, it's a bodysuit. It's a leotard. with stuff stuck on the back of it. A very well made one, kind of a boring silhouette to me outside of the pipes. But I think I'm still going to give it a slay because it did fit the vibe, it did meet the brief, and I do think it is an incredibly well put together concept executed at a high level. Slay. Now up next we have Roxy Andrews, and I do appreciate that the makeup is different. I absolutely adored her hair and her makeup in the challenge. I thought they were so stunning, and I think that's probably the best makeup we've seen from her in the competition so far. I thought it was so glamorous. It was the perfect scaling for her eyebrows, and that's something that I've had an issue with over the course of the competition, and here is no different. I think she went way too large for her face, and I just don't think that, like, it's flattering. I don't think it's bad by any means, but I think she could have made some different choices here that would have made the look overall more successful in the makeup department. I like the side cutouts, I like the drapiness of it, but this does not feel to me like something I would see on All Stars 9. Like, this is her third time on the show, and to me, as much as I love Roxy, and I think she's one of the most incredible drag queens on the planet, I do think that this is like a little lackluster. So for me, I'm just going to give this an okay. But the body looks great, as always. Like, she looks stunning, but it's just not up to snuff with the rest of them, in my opinion. Up next, we have Miss Vanjie, and I absolutely adore the direction of this. To me, this is the most, like, fashion editorial thing that we've seen her in any season, really. I adore the sculpt of this. I love the color palette. I think the cutouts that make it incredibly sexy is very on brand for Vanjie. I actually really like this little small sculpted hair. This, like, really sleek kind of Miranda Priestley moment. Here for it. I get that the makeup made more sense with her look for the roast, but here I don't think it works as well. What is awful is the fact that she wore a boot with this. Like, you've got these cutouts on the legs, and I think had she just worn like a basic heel, it would have been more flattering, because with where the boot hits, it's just like strange to me. It's just an odd choice in the shoe department. It's a gown that covers your feet, so like she could have just put on like a nude kitten heel or like a nude pump or something, and had it just be nondescript and not a part of the look, really, because you don't see it. And having the boot be there is a weird choice. Other than that, I think the rest of this is really cool, really interesting, and one of my favorite looks of this episode. I'm gonna give it a slay. So up next we have Andrea Paris Van Michaels, and for me, the only thing I liked about this look, aside from the color palette, even though I hate this particular tone of green, it works for her and it works with the look, was how it moved on the runway. That's the only really strong thing to this to me. When you take away all the foxtails and the huge skirt, it's like a bra and a corset, and it's quite boring and not really all that interesting to look at. I'm not the biggest fan of the hair either. I think had it been a little sleeker, if she's gonna do this big sculpt, I think that would have worked a little better. But with how large it is, like, it's just not for me. It's not doing it for me. But I also, at the same time, don't think it's egregious or awful by any means, so I'm just going to give it an okay. Up next, we have Gottmik, and my golly, when you get into the detail and the construction on this garment, all of the patchwork quality to this is so good. Like, I'm not surprised that Gottmik is really bringing it on the runways this season. For me, her and Plastique are really fighting it out for that top spot as the runway queen this season. There's something so 2001 about this that I really, really adore. But yeah, in general, this look just really knocked it out of the park to me. I love the color. I love the makeup. Even though it is very similar to last week, it is slightly different. So I am a fan. I adore this. I'm going to be giving this a slay. And finally, we have Nina West. I'm not the biggest fan of the silver sequin bit along the bust line here. I think it's really bulky. However, I do find the idea of her look being not just an atomic blonde, but also an atomic bomb. But still, I don't know if I would ever do a look that's a bomb with the hair being the mushroom cloud like that. Maybe it's just me, but at the same time, I do think it's executed very, very well, but I just don't think that this is something that I am a personal fan of. in terms of the concept department. And this is the first look that we've seen from Nina all season that when it rounded the corner, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cute. Like, the silhouette is great on her, and the proportion of this is perfection. I had really no problems with it aside from the concept. So I'm going to give Nina, for the first time this season, a soft slay. Overall, I found the runways this week collectively to be pretty solid. Really, my only gripes with it were like, I found a couple of the looks a little lacking, but other than that, I thought it all did pretty good on this theme. So I'm not at all mad about this outcome. However, it does make picking my slay of the day a little more difficult, with there being technically 6 of them, but I would say Nina is like the lowest end of that. Ultimately for me this week, I think it's going to come down to Georgia's and Gottmik. Georgia's was a real surprise for me on the runway this week, and Gottmik's look was so fashion forward, so runway, so editorial, that I could not help but love it. And of these 2 looks, I think I would really enjoy drawing both of them, but I think I would have more fun with Georgia's. So I'm going to be giving my slay of the day to Georgia's, who in my opinion, I think should have been in the top 2 with Angeria. Love Plastique, but that lip sync was egregious. If I would give a name to anything in this episode, it would be the fact that during the rap on Be My Lover, she just went, Angeria turned it out. Rightfully deserved that win. I thought she was the funniest in the roast. The proctologist joke with Nina had me on the floor. I will say though, Plastic got a really good one in with that Scientology bit. I was a big fan of that. I had a good giggle, a hearty ha-ha or 2 over that. But in general, I just did not think that the set was enough for me when Georgia's got the reaction that she did and had this storyline going on, like leaning into making this character who is really butch while she is egregiously homosexual. I just thought that she deserved it, to be honest, and I thought it would have been better for storyline with her being one of the roast winners, given the roast was the challenge she got eliminated on in her original season. But that's just my little opinion. What do I know? And now that we've done that, it is time to put our look for this episode up against episode 3's A Tale and Two Titties Runway from Gottmik to pick our slate of the season going into episode 7. And once again, as much as I love George's look, and I think I could really turn something out with this, Gottmik's look is really such an important statement in this time, and I adore it, even though the only fashion here is the shoe and the skirt. And a dream, I suppose. I'm gonna keep Gottmik's look a slay this season. I will say, we almost had a Mick versus Mick situation, and it could have been a very fun little debacle to determine which of these 2 I would have picked. That is going to be it for me today, so I'm going to bid you all farewell for another week. There will be some Persona content coming finally this week. I need to get back into that. I've been a little lax in the editing department because I've been doing so much art and so much shiny hunting over on Twitch, because we are still raising money all month long, all through June, for the campaign for Southern Equality, fighting for equal rights and legal protections for LGBTQ folks in the American South. So far, this collective fundraiser has gotten over $16,000 just 2 weeks into the month. We are very much on track to surpass what we raised last year, and every dollar that we raise is matched 1-to-1 up to the first $25K raised by the community. So if you want to donate and contribute towards that, I will have that link in the description below, and I would appreciate it immensely. And as donations rack up on my personal campaign, we will be unlocking some really fun milestones and rewards that will be done both over on my Twitch stream and done over here on YouTube. Until we meet again, be sure to go out there, stay kind, stay queer, and make sure that your day is very slay.